Hey, what's up, y'all? It's Jed, aka Francis York Morgan. I just want to make a quick video going through some of Ridder's All-22 because I feel like a lot of what's being criticized from Ridder and what's being criticized of Art and his scheme is not necessarily on point. A few things that I just want to be clear about. I'm not saying that Art's scheme is perfect. God knows he gets really cute sometimes. And there are certainly some things that frustrate me about it. However, the play calling and the game plan itself the last couple weeks has been good enough to win. And it does not even require Ridder to be perfect. And that's the second thing. I do not think that most of what Ridder is doing wrong can actually be traced back to things like his accuracy or his arm or things like that, which, yes, he has various limitations there, but that is not what is making this offense so ugly. And just to add to that, there are some things that I think Ridder did very well, especially in the second half of this game. I'm not going to linger on those a whole lot just because, being honest, I'm really sick of this team being garbage in the first half. It's not enough to beat good teams. It's barely enough to beat decent teams. And lastly, I know that there are issues all around this team. I mean, just look at this, what should be a beautiful screen pass, probably 20 plus yards, maybe even a touchdown, and it gets completely blown up by Foye because no one blocks him. Anyway, plenty of blame to go around, but by far and away, this team would be doing a lot better if Ridder could just do three relatively simple things that other young quarterbacks who are having success in the league and success with their coordinators are doing already. And those three things are, one, seeing the field. That doesn't mean going through a lengthy progression. It just means seeing the players that are on the field and not just being a guesser pre-snap, which Ridder has done a lot. The second thing is trusting what you're seeing, because it doesn't matter how easy the look is if you're going to hesitate. That's what gets young quarterbacks killed in this league. And the very last thing is simply not staring at that first read. You can know where you want to go, but you can't telegraph it the way he has been doing. This first play here is a perfect example of what I'm trying to say when I say that Ridder is a guesser. So this is just a pretty simple variation of the dagger concept. So for those of you who don't know what that is, that's just we've got Drake running a seam, and we've got Kyle coming across on a deep dig route. And then you've got Algier just leaking out of the backfield after the play fake as a check down option. So I like this route combination a lot for a relatively young quarterback because it really simplifies things for them in the first place, which I've seen a lot of people comment on how, Art needs to simplify the offense for Ridder. Well, this is extremely simple. All he's got to do at this point is key on the deep safety. If that safety keeps dropping, then that means that the dig is going to be wide the fuck ass open, and it 100% is, especially helped by the fact that you've got Algier leaking out of the backfield, which pulls the linebacker even farther away. And all of this, again, seems very straightforward if you don't know where you're going with the ball before you actually survey these things and make your decision. So, I mean, let's just ignore for now that he does, in fact, fake the wrong way, something he's done a lot already in Atlanta, and it's also why I'm a little skeptical of all those people who are saying we need to run more play action when he's honestly been kind of terrible at it. Yeah, the thing you just really want to key on, and the thing that he should be keyed on, is that deep safety, which, as I said before, you see him come off. He is 100% guarding that deep shot because he's got a feeling we're going to go there. And instead of taking the easy, it would have been at least 20 yards and a much easier throw to Pitts, he throws it into double coverage. Great throw, all things considered. But it's this kind of decision making and this overall just guessing instead of taking what's presented in front of him that is the single most concerning thing that I see with Ridder when it comes to his future in the NFL. And you see so this is the second interception he threw of the game. It's actually on the same concept. I'm sure Art talked with him later and he's like, look, dude, This was wide open. We're going to try and run it again, see if they play it the same way. And I swear, maybe all that Ridder heard is this time throw it to Pitts, because that's pretty much what he does. And I'm not letting Pitts off here, because don't get me wrong, I think that Pitts rounded off the route, and that was probably a big part of why this was an interception in the first place. But it really does go to show, because the safety doesn't play it the same at all. And I feel like Ridder's just guessing. Next play, we've just got a little spacing concept. You've got Drake. He's going to be running a little curl. Meanwhile, we've got Hollins on the outside is just running a little flat. And now Algier is going to just settle in the middle as a nice little check down. Now, this is all supposed to set up a pretty easy decision for Ridder. We've got the motion with Bijan coming across, showing that it's not man coverage. And then you just really have to key in on the flat defender and pay attention where they are in the route. However, Ridder, it feels like, has already made up his mind pre-snap that, okay, I'm not going to look at the flat defender and where they're playing, how they're playing off here. I don't care that Drake's route is going to set up this nice pick that we've probably even talked about, and that's part of why this combination is there in the first place. I'm going to just throw it to Drake because he is the guy who looked like he would be open pre-snap, and I'm guessing that he'll be open. And that's why you end up with a play like this, a pick six that is telegraphed kind of from the beginning. This next play is getting at some of the hesitation that I'm talking about with Ridder. And honestly, this is a killer for young quarterbacks, especially because part of the way you help young quarterbacks is just by making their read simplified, by making it so they can just identify something very quickly pre-snap and be like, okay, this is where I would like to go with it, as long as it still looks that way before I'm about to throw it. So we motion Hollins across the formation, gives a quick clue because the guy travels with him that this is man coverage. So you're like, okay, Kyle's man is playing way off here. He's running a quick hitch. As soon as I hit the back of my drop, I need to have that ball out. But what happens instead is Ridder does the fake. He looks right over at Kyle, and he freezes. He just looks like, I don't know, I'm worried, and looks over to Drake, and without really actually processing what he's seeing, decides to huck it into what, again, could have been a really, really costly turnover. And when Ridder has these kind of turn downs in what are otherwise extremely NFL open looks, it winds up making Art's offense look a lot worse than it is. Another much more forgivable, but in no way minor example of this happened on the big Mac Hollins miss. So just want to get this out of the way first. Jake does get beat almost immediately by Josh Allen. So if we want to be real here, it is not all on Ridder. I'm pretty sure that he got a hand on this because, good Lord, that's an ugly ball. But you'll see that this is a look that, if you want to throw it, you should honestly probably throw it at the top of your drop, or you should look elsewhere. And yet Ridder, what happens is he gets to the top of his drop, and again, it's almost like he has to psych himself up to do it. He doesn't let loose, and he just makes, for one, he makes the throw harder on himself with that moment of hesitation. But it also winds up giving Allen a chance to see, okay, he's about to throw it, and stick that hand out and really affect the throw. For all my criticisms of Ridder, I do want to end this video on a positive note, not just looking at the things he did well in the second half, but one specific thing that at least speaks to possibly him being able to read the field better in the future, and that is his ability to look off defenders. So one of the things that he's struggled with a lot to me is seeing the field, and I feel like a couple of plays really speak to this being something he might be able to improve on, and that would mean a lot, not just for his future decision-making, which I've already said has not been great, but for his ability to manipulate defenses to make throws easier for himself, because for all the criticisms of Art's offense and how it tends to only allow for certain tight window throws, a lot of that does fall on a quarterback because so many players on the defense are following the quarterback's eyes throughout the entire play. So if he's able to manipulate that a bit more, then you can have some of these simpler, okay, this play is designed to go to this player kind of concepts that do make young quarterbacks' lives easier, but they have to sell that, or else there's no way it's going to be open because everyone's staring at the quarterback. And this first play is a great example of Ridder actually doing this very well, where he drags down the linebacker that otherwise would have really made that throw to Pitts a lot more difficult by kind of eyeing the area that Cordero is leaking out. And because of that, it makes this much easier, roughly 15-yard gain. And this next play is another great example of that, where he really kind of holds Campbell in the middle of the field, kind of where Pitts is, as well as the safety. And that allows for a much easier throw just over the linebacker, Jonnu. And so, again, I know that there's a lot of negative in this video regarding Ridder, and I admit that I myself am struggling to see a world where he does evolve into the Falcons quarterback of the future, where I was much more optimistic about that beforehand. But if Ridder can just really start trusting this offense a little bit more and really settle in the way he has more in the second half and do that in the first half, then we'll be set. But that's something I feel like a lot of us have been saying for a while at this point, that obviously, we know that he needs to get better in the first half. So his entire future in this league is going to depend on that more than it will depend on these kind of mythical, really easy situations for Ridder, because I feel like there have been a lot of situations that we put him in that allow for him to have easier throws as long as he's just making the right decisions. But later, y'all. Hope you enjoyed that.